notice on your shirt it says motivated, educated, and graduated. What does that mean to you?
So first off, the motivation means that every day I have to find my why with coming to work, making sure that I'm always committed to doing the job. Of course, we know that for our job, we have to have knowledge over our content areas. We have to make sure that we take different courses, certifications, and then of course graduate. So that's just a short explanation of the daily threes that I have to make sure that I have.
What got you started in education?
Initially, I was working at Geico through my undergraduate degree, and then I moved up into management. And with being a supervisor, I of course had a team of adults, but I also was given the opportunity to supervise high school interns who were doing their workforce with their 12th grade year. And so I had to attend meetings and go to different celebrations for them. So I started meeting different professionals in the education field, and they started kind of letting me know why I would be a great teacher. And at first it was like far-fetched. I didn't think teaching was for me, but I started kind of being open to the idea, going to career fairs. And I just one day took the step and applied for the job. And I literally applied for the job, was interviewed and hired in the same day.
Nice, nice. So we spoke on this earlier, but one thing we noticed throughout our year working with you is that your students have a tremendous amount of respect and love and admiration for you. And you jump on their behind from time to time. But how do you establish that balance? Because we see some teachers getting the education, they want to be their friend, and the kids run over them. And then we see some teachers, they're too aggressive or too overbearing. So how do you establish that balance?
I would think so. My first year, I learned a lot. My first year, actually my first 4 years, I taught high school. My first year, my students had a long-term sub for about 3 months. So when I came in, it was literally, they were all over the place. And I remember someone told me to kind of pick a struggle, so to speak. You definitely wanted to make sure you had that good classroom management, because even being the smartest individual, having the best curriculum, having the best PowerPoints and lessons, if your classroom is all over the place and you don't have good behavior, your students are still not learning. So I started to kind of find how to be a teacher, how to be an effective teacher. And I realized that you have to have that balance, of course, where you have the structure, but also where your students feel like your classroom is a safe place for them. And just through trial and error, I just started to make sure, of course, you know, the first day having that firm foundation where we're going to be respectful. I'm going to respect you because it's just as much important for me to make sure that I respect you and you respect me as well. Letting them know that there's no real hierarchy where I'm more important than you, we're all important. And then I think just by your students learning that you care for them, learning that you'll do anything for them, they start to realize, okay, you know, she's somebody that I can really count on, even from this school year to the next and so forth. So I think for me, it's kind of almost having that family dynamics where, just like mom, you're respectful to mom. You don't always agree with mom. Mom isn't always right, but also making sure that, you know, you respect mom. So for me, it's more of an even balance.
So how do you establish that balance?
It's hard. I'm going to be totally honest. It is hard, especially like your first few years. You're kind of figuring out what works, what does not work. And again, it's just trial and error. So for me, thankfully, I've been able to kind of have a better work-life balance. I still have my stressful moments, of course, when things are due, but I try to really, time management is important. Time management ensures that if I use my time wisely, I definitely don't have to do as much home as I probably would if I did not use my time wisely. So making sure when lesson plans are due, making sure they're in and they're submitted, making sure that I kind of have like a template, so to speak, and making sure that I follow that course, making sure that when I have free time, instead of kind of just not doing work, making sure that I push that extra mile. But time management is really important for work-life balance. And then of course, just as you kind of go through your years, because I'll be going into my 7th year of teaching next year, it really teaches you again what works and what does not work. And each year I kind of subtract one thing and add another thing. And the great things I multiply, so that works.
What advice, and you may have answered most of this, but what advice do you have for new teachers or struggling teachers? Because You are doing very well as an educator, and it's evident, and we've seen a lot of evidence of that throughout this entire year. But you do have some people that are struggling, or you have some people that want to get into education, are new to education, but just kind of need some guidance. What advice do you have for them?
I would say for any new teacher or any teacher who feels like they're struggling, one thing that I like to put out is a lot of times we think that we're struggling, or we think that we're the only one because people do not share. So find a person, a mentor, a safe space to where you can actually feel comfortable to reach out to someone and say, hey, I have this question, or I'm struggling with this. And they'll probably more than likely open up to you and let you know they've had the same struggles, if not half the same struggles as you. A lot of times when we have things due, I'm oftentimes all over the place because I see myself as a perfectionist, but I have to kind of reel myself back in. With new teachers, I would say I've been so lucky and blessed to always have pretty much a great group, a great department that I've worked with. And so it's so very important to kind of attach yourself. Even though I sometimes feel that I'm an introvert, it's important to attach yourself to a great leader with that firm foundation, because when you feel stressed, when you feel as if you don't know what to do, that's someone who you can lean on. They can share resources with you. They can give you advice and guidance. So that's so very important to me. And for anybody who wants to get into the education field, I would really say, again, develop your why. I've heard that from my first year until now. Really ask yourself, do I want to be an educator? Not just a teacher, because when you say educator, that takes in a whole lot. Teachers just teach, but educators, sometimes we have to be an aunt. Sometimes we have to be a big sister, a counselor. We have to teach the lessons. We have to be a lot of different things and wear a lot of hats. So ask yourself if you have the capacity to really divide yourself and give of yourself so freely, because a lot of times I do a lot of things for my students that people would never know. I do it behind closed doors, do it when people are not looking. And that is because at the end of the day, every morning I get up and I'm ready to give my all to my students. So just really ask yourself, what is my why? Why do I really want this career? If I really want this career. And if you do, I definitely say go for it.